Magic friends!
Hello.
Today we are moving away from cards. But don't be scared. Today we are discussing metal bending. Some people call it spoon bending. The real name is psychokinesis. And basically what it is to get a spoon to bend using the power of only your mind. But mentalists make, coins bend, they make nails bend, anything metal they can bend. I mean, there's been claims of certain mentalists bending light poles. Bullshit. Anyway, and all I'm saying is today we are going to discuss the key bend. And the reason I think we're going to discuss this first, I am going to be discussing metal bending in the future tutorials and things. We're going to go in depth into spoons and forks and nails and railroad sparks. We're going to go crazy with metal bending, but I thought we'd start with key bending because the fundamentals are all there. All the fundamentals for key bending are there. But I don't know if any of you remember this guy.
What kind of made me well known around the world? It was a spoon, as you know. And it happened on a British show called the David Dimbleby Show. I held a spoon and I started going like this. I said bend, melt. Yes, it's the beginning. Anthony, hold the ball of the spoon. I'll continue. Bend, melt, bend. Yes, it's the beginning. You see, the spoon is becoming soft, like plasticine. And if I shake it, it's gonna go. There!
Most of you will recognize him as Uri Geller, the famous Israeli spoon bender, and he was the first mentalist to do metal bending and gain any sort of notoriety to it. Now I'm going to show you a very brief performance of how Uri Geller does the key bend, and then I'm going to talk to you about what's going on. I'm going to show you the method that he uses, and then I'm going to teach you the method that I use, which, and I bet you thought I wouldn't say it this time, but it's a doozy.
Geller also uses his mind to bend metal. Unlike Ninel Kulagina, however, Geller doesn't appear to be exerting himself when attempting psychokinesis.
Yes, I'm thinking bend.
With only the slightest touch and no application of heat, the key started to bend.
Now, Geller was very smart. He knew how to keep things simple. So he wouldn't resort to any funny, fancy things like us naughty magicians would. And the way Geller would bend keys is he would find a door key like this. And the reason he would find a door key like that is because of that gap there. And what he would do is he would simply put a padlock key, which is the key that he would normally bend. He'd put the padlock key in that slot like that, and he would push down to make it bend. See? Just like that. And then normally what he would do is he'd get the key into position while someone else is handling a key, but we'll get to that later. And he'd say, can you bend that key? And while he's doing that, what he would do is he'd put a bend in the key. But he would literally just use a door key, one of these door keys, and he would take the... Bending it outwards isn't as effective as bending it inwards because this is smaller. So he would push them together almost like nail clippers, which I haven't used in a while. Don't look at my nails. Anyway, and then he would bend it like that. And that is as simple as that. And in his handling and presentation, that's how he would actually accomplish his. Now, I don't like having bunches of keys in my hand. I think it looks ugly and it's very awkward, and it doesn't look very nice. It's messy. I don't know, maybe that's just my magical sensibilities. And I thought, how could I get a key like this to work for me if I don't want bunches of keys in my hand? How can I get it right? And how would I be able to bend this key without having anything else in my hand and still be able to bend a key, a padlock key like this? Even a signed one. How could I have someone sign the key and then bend it just without having anything else in my hands? And the thing I came up with, and don't laugh, the thing I came up with is a pull. She's ugly, but she works. So what it is, as you can see, it's a key attached to a safety pin, but I've broken off, as you can see, I broke off this part of the key. Okay, and you don't have to if you want to make this like without breaking that off. But what I did find is when it was going up my sleeve, this jaggedy bit here would like catch, and it didn't really do any good for the facilitation of the shooting back of the device. You know, so this is the way it is. So I broke it off like that. Use a bit of super glue on the end and then wind the elastic around there, which is perfect for the attachment, and then a safety pin at the end of it. And that's basically it, okay? And then when you attach it over here where you would normally shoot smack. Don't attach it up by your armpit or by your shoulder. This pull needs to be close to the cuff because you need to be able to retrieve it from your cuff when you need it. But I'll explain that all in due time. But what I'm saying is the pull itself doesn't violently shoot back like most magic pulls. It sort of sits on your arm there, sort of there inside the sleeve, and then you pull it out when you need it and you gently let it go when you don't need it, and it will hide inside your cuff. Most magicians would have pulls that almost feel like they can tow a car, and that's not necessary for mentalism. Now, I'm physically not going to give you an example and show you how to pull it out from inside your sleeve with these two fingers, because I don't think you need to. You know, I'm going to actually treat you like you're not stupid.
You thinking what I'm thinking, partner? Aim for the bushes.
How it looks when the key is actually bending is the most important part of the entire thing. That's why acting is more important than technique. But it still has to look good. It still has to look like the key is actually bending. A lot of mentalists like to look like they put a lot of force into it. Now this looks nice. Oh, you see how, see, yeah, that looks nice. But what I prefer, much rather have, is I'd much rather have a gentle approach. Which also looks nice. Now what Geller does is he just covers it and then slowly opens it up like this, but he tilts it up. Now what he's doing is ratcheting. That's the first term you're going to learn in metal bending when you're doing impromptu metal bending, is ratcheting. And what that basically means is basically tilting it up so it looks like it's bending. And what Geller did was he would point it sort of down like this, cover it with all his fingers, pull it a little bit further up and then release one finger so that you can see it a little bit bent there. And what he would slowly do is he'd slowly tilt it up like this for the cameras so that it would look like, wow, it's actually bending upwards like that. That's what Geller would do. And you feel free. If it works for you, it works for you. I'm not going to lecture you and tell you what you're doing is wrong. If you're getting good reactions, what you're doing is right. But I prefer the ratcheting style of making it look like it's effortless. So I prefer the ratcheting style of basically, you would hold it like this and you would sort of push your two fingers like this. So I would hold it there and have it face directly towards their eyes. And then I'd push my thumb forward, but not obviously, very, very slowly. And when you do that and you push your thumb forward very, very, very slowly while pulling this finger back, that action is called ratcheting. And it will look like the key is bending. The beautiful part about that is that it's visual. They can see it bending. Now, there are other bending effects that I will teach you in other tutorials where you have the key bend in the person's hand, lovely, but then they can't actually see it in the bending process. The beautiful part about this particular key bend is you can see it happening in the hands. So you can make it look like, or you can, any kind of acting you want to do when you do it, anything you like, practice it in the mirror, practice it for a camera, and you will see the speed you need to do in order to make it look, see, looks like I'm just making it, you see. So it's all about the acting, but the action is basically that. It's your fingers doing that. That's it, simple. But you've got to know how to handle it. You've got to know when to do it, when to retrieve it, and when to actually do the bend. And I'm going to go into that with you now. I really wouldn't recommend bending a stranger's keys unless they really want you to. And then I would still not recommend it. You can do the impromptu method with bunches of keys if you are wearing short sleeves. Obviously, the gimmick that I just showed you is a pull. You need long sleeves, and it won't work for a jacket. This isn't a magic trick. Please, you need to know the difference between mentalism and magic. This is not supposed to be an art. If you could read minds and bend metal, it's an ability, and an ability is not an art. Magic's an art because people know it's a trick. Mentalism is in that fuzzy grey area where people aren't really sure. And you should take advantage of that. And what I mean by that is very simple and quick lecture. Don't bend other people's keys. And if you want to do it impromptu with bunches of keys and use other people's keys, make sure you have their permission and make sure it's a spare key. I only ran into it once where a guy said, well, okay, great, bend it back. I actually need that key. And then, well, after buying him another key, I realized that I should make sure it's a spare key or a key they don't need. And then at that stage also, if you're at a table and you're asking for a spare key and no one's got one, what then? And then I realized locksmiths are sitting on thousands and thousands of keys that they discard, from door keys to padlock keys to any kind of key you can think of that either get cut wrong, they don't have locks for, etc., 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 etc. And what I would do is I'd go to the locksmith and I'd say to him, hey, listen, man, do you mind if I, take all these keys off your hands? You have to dump them. You have to get rid of them. They're heavy, they're bulky. I'll take all of those broken keys off your hands for you. Do you mind if I have them? And 9 times, actually 10 times out of 10, every locksmith has said, sure, because to him it's just less crap to get rid of. And what I would do is I'd get those key rings and I'd sit and I'd make bunches and bunches of keys, but I'd put a door key on there, 2 padlock keys, a key ring. I had a bunch of key rings that were lying around. They collect everywhere. In those drawers, you get a free key ring or a lanyard and you chuck it. Then I would make bunches and bunches of fake key bunches and I would pretend that they were mine. And what I would normally do is I would say, listen, I don't want to bend your guys' keys unless you want me to. And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, no, man, it's my key. And then I would say, okay, well, here's my bunch of keys. Pick a key there out of the padlock keys. Okay. And then I would take it off the key ring. And then I would put it away. I wouldn't, initially I would use the door key to bend it the Geller method. And then I realized, I originally wanted to just bend a key with just the key in my hand, right? So I'd put that fake bunch of keys away and I would pretend they were my keys. Meanwhile, they don't fit any lock known to man. And I'd get the key and I'd say, just in case you think I'm going to do anything strange, I'd get the guy to put his initials on the key. It's a little touch. You might want to do that. It's very magic-y, but I'm a magician essentially. I just love mentalism and I understand it. And it's up to you whether you want to blend your mentalism with your magic. That's up to you. Generally though, if I go to a gig to do magic, I'll do magic in sleight of hand. If I go to a gig and I'm a bit tired of the cards and the sleight of hand or whatever, or if I've injured my hand, I've had a sprained wrist once and I relied heavily on mentalism for that particular gig because I never ever cancelled the gig in my entire life. Sick come rain or shine, most sleight of hand artists after spraining their wrist would cancel a gig. I went there with a big cast. It was like a wrist cast. Like, here's a little story, guys. I went to a gig with a wrist brace on, and the funny thing is, I was doing billet switching inside the palm of the thing. I was doing mentalism anyway, but I didn't cancel. That's the important thing. But what I'm basically saying is, if I go to a gig to do mentalism, I only do mentalism and metal bending. I don't do I don't even bring the cards with, because I don't know. It's just, I think it sort of, it softens the blow, if that makes any sense. So I don't want to like, I don't want to lie to people, and I don't want to be unethical, but I also want to leave it up to them, because that's where half the fun is, isn't it? So if anyone had to tell me, was that real? I'd say, what do you think? I'm not lying. I just want to leave a little bit of mystery, for goodness sake. I think James Randi, God rest his soul, he will be missed. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. But I think he was a little misguided in his crusade to like let everyone know that it's all bullshit. I don't know. I think maybe we could have lightened up a little. Let's leave a little bit of mystery, shall we? And anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, because trust me, there are going to be lots more metal bending tutorials, and you are going to want to see them, because trust me, you're going to use this stuff for the rest of your life. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. You bad mother...